I was in the thick of the biggest presentation of my life. My laptop screen glowing with the faces of my boss and 3 potential clients who could make or break our company's year. Millions were on the line, and I was nailing it until the pounding started. Not a polite knock or a friendly doorbell chime, but a relentless, angry hammering that rattled my home office like a storm. My microphone picked up every thud, and I could see the client's eyebrows shoot up. "I'm so sorry," I stammered, trying to keep my cool while my pulse raced. "Let me just check who's at the door." But the banging didn't stop. It got louder, more demanding, and I could hear muffled shouting outside, though the words were unclear. My colleagues shifted uncomfortably, and one client glanced at his watch, visibly annoyed. Through the front window, I spotted her, Linda Harper, the self-proclaimed queen of Pinewood Estates Homeowners Association. She stood on my porch, arms crossed, her face twisted into that smug, righteous scowl I'd learned to loathe. In her hand were official-looking papers, and she kept checking her watch like I'd missed some appointment I never knew existed. The pounding started again, harder, shaking the doorframe. My boss cleared his throat on the call, and I knew I was losing them. This was my shot at the biggest contract of my career, months of work hanging by a thread. But Linda's assault on my door made it impossible to focus, let alone look professional. "I'm sorry, I have an emergency," I said, my voice tight despite my best efforts to sound calm. "Can we reschedule for later today?" The disappointment on their faces crushed me, but I had no choice. I ended the call and bolted to the door, hands trembling with fury and nerves. When I yanked it open, Linda didn't hesitate. She stepped forward, invading my space with the confidence of someone who thought they owned the whole damn neighborhood. She was in her late 50s with sleek silver hair and a posture so rigid it screamed control freak. Her eyes were sharp, calculating, like she was sizing me up for battle. "I need your house access code now," she declared, no greeting, no explanation. Her voice dripped with entitlement, as if my privacy was a privy leg I'd lost by movying here. She waved a clipboard with forms and tapped it with her pen, impatient. I stared, dumbfounded. The request was so absurd I couldn't process it. "My what?" I managed, still grappling with why she thought she had any right to my security system. "Your access code," she repeated, slow and condescending, like I was too dumb to get it. "The HOA requires immediate access to all home security systems for compliance checks. You were supposed to submit this weeks ago per our new safety protocols." She flashed her clipboard again, too far for me to read. I'd been in this house 3 months, and nobody had mentioned anything about handing over my codes. The idea of giving Linda or anyone keys to my home was so outrageous, I almost laughed. "I'm not giving you my security code," I said, firm but shaken by her aggression. "I've never heard of this rule, and I wasn't told about any deadline. You can't demand access to my private property." Linda's face hardened, her eyes narrowing with a cold rage that sent a chill down my spine. She stepped closer, her overpowering perfume mixing with her barely contained fury. "You're in violation of HOA regulations," she hissed, low and menacing. "This isn't a request, it's a requirement for all Pinewood residents." I held my ground, though every instinct screamed to back away. "I need to see these rules in writing," I said, steadying my voice. "And I need proper notice and time to review any policy changes. You can't just show up during my workday and demand my codes." "Big mistake." Linda's face flushed crimson, and she practically shoved herself into my doorway. "Your workday is irrelevant to HOA compliance," she snapped. "You don't negotiate with approved regulations. Your noncompliance is noted, and there will be consequences." She spun on her heel and marched off, but not before retrieving a notice from her car and slapping it onto my door with enough force to make the tape screech. "This is your final warning," she shouted, loud enough for the whole block to hear. "Continued violations will trigger immediate enforcement." As her car peeled away, I stared at the paper, now plastered to my door like a badge of shame. "Notice of violation and pending enforcement action." It screamed in bold letters, listing supposed infractions. failure to VY to security access, non-compliance with safety protocols, and obstructing HOA duties. Reading it, my stomach dropped. It claimed I'd been violating rules for weeks, despite never getting a single warning or hearing about these regulations. The kicker? Failure to comply within 24 hours may result in temporary removal from the premises. I'd moved to Pinewood for peace, a quiet place to focus on my software development job. The HOA was sold as a group that kept the lawns tidy and property values up, not a dictatorship run by a woman who thought she could evict people on a whim. The timing was a nightmare. My remote work demanded focus, and my home office was my sanctuary. Losing access, even briefly, could tank my career. I'd heard whispers about Linda neighbors griping about her finding people for mailboxes painted the wrong shade or garbage bins left out too long. I thought they were exaggerating, but now I saw the truth. Linda didn't just enforce rules. She invented them to flex her power, especially over newbies like me who hadn't learned to fear her. The notice was nonsense, full of official jargon, but no specific citations or clear fixes. The 24-hour deadline was a trap. How could I comply when I didn't even know what she wanted? I called the number on the notice, hoping for someone sane, but got Linda's voicemail, crisp and commanding, saying issues were handled only through written requests, with replies in 5 to 7 days. With a 24-hour deadline, that was a deliberate setup to fail. That night, I barely slept, jumping at every sound. Halfcon V. Wine said Linda was spying for more violations. The irony wasn't lost on me. The woman demanding my security code was the one I most wanted to lock out. The next morning, my nightmare got worse. My key wouldn't turn in the front door. I jiggled it, thinking it was stuck, but the truth hit like a punch. Linda had changed my locks. I tried every door, same story. I was locked out of my own house, my laptop, work files, clothes, everything trapped inside. As I stood in my backyard, helpless, I heard car doors slam. Linda appeared with 2 men, one holding papers, the other with a security guard's grim expression. "The EVY tie-in is processed," she announced, smug as ever. "You're temporarily removed, pending resolution of your violations." I was floored. "You can't evict me from my own house," I said, my voice shaking. "I own this place, mortgage, insurance, the works. You have no authority." Linda smirked, holding up a folder. "The HOA has broad powers per the covenant you signed. Violations breach community standards, requiring immediate action." One of the men handed me a card and a pamphlet for Crest Haven Motel, a dump that looked stuck in the 70s. "The HOA has a deal for temporary housing," he grunted. "You'll be fine there while you sort this out." "This is insane," I said, staring between them. "You can't lock me out because I won't give you my code. I'm calling the cops." Linda's smile widened. "The police are informed. Officer Daniels knows about the enforcement and housing arrangement. Everything's above board." She waved off my threat to call 911, warning that false reports could mean more penalties. I felt trapped in a twisted reality where Linda was judge and jury, and I was stuck paying for a sleazy motel while she held my house hostage. The motel was as bad as I'd feared: stale cigarette stench, creaky beds, and an AC that couldn't decide if it was Arctic or Sahara. 3 days later, a bill arrived, charging me premium rates for this dump, plus emergency housing fees and HOA administrative costs that doubled the cost. When I called to dispute it, Linda's secretary coolly said displaced residents foot the bill, due in 10 days or else. I hung up, feeling like I'd stumbled into a mafia racket run by a neighborhood busybody. Enough was enough. I hit the library, digging into HOA laws. What I found was infuriating. HOAs have power, but Linda's actions demanding codes, vague notices, lockouts, VY, every rule in the book. Worse, I wasn't her first Tim. Online forums and public records showed a 2-year pattern of her targeting new or vulnerable residents, forcing them into the same motel scam. One story hit hard. A nurse, Emily, locked out for noise violations from her night shifts. She'd spent 2 weeks at Crest Haven and discovered Linda's brother-in-law owned the place, pocketing inflated charges while Linda got a cut. This wasn't just bullying, it was a criminal scheme. Emily had been documenting everything, but needed more VY Tims to build a case. With my tech skills and fresh anger, I was perfect for the job. I dove in, treating it like a coding project. Spreadsheets tracked Linda's actions. Timelines mapped her scam. A forgotten HOA email password gave me gold. Emails between Linda and the motel owner plotting kickbacks and fake violation reports to maximize profits. It was a full-blown conspiracy. I contacted Sarah Lee, a local journalist known for exposing corruption. She jumped on the story, interviewing VY Tims, digging into records, and confirming Linda's fraud. A week later, her article hit. HOA official accused of EVY tie-in scam. The backlash was instant. Neighbors called, ready to share their stories. The HOA office was swamped with complaints. Linda even tried ripping newspapers off lawns to hide the story, but it was too late. She showed up in my motel room the next day, flanked by two goons, her usual smugness replaced by desperation. "You think you're clever," she spat, "but you're in deep trouble. The HOA can sue for defamation." I held up my phone, showing an email about her kickbacks. "This is from your HOA account, Linda. The reporter has it all, and so do the lawyers." Her face paled, but she doubled down, claiming it was out of context. Then, shockingly, she switched gears, pleading, "Maybe we can work this out. I'll fix your situation if you're reasonable about this information." She was offering a bribe, confirming her guilt. "It's too late," I said. "The story's out, VY Tims are talking, and the cops are coming." She stormed off, but that evening, Detective Harris called. Linda was under investigation for fraud, extortion, and conspiracy. They'd raided her home and office, seizing EVY Denke. 2 days later, she was arrested, facing years in prison and massive fines. A judge ordered immediate access to all locked-out homes. Walking back into my house felt like freedom itself. The HOA board ousted Linda, voted to rebuild with transparency, and VY Tims filed lawsuits. The motel owner was arrested, his dump shut down for code violations. Weeks later, in an HOA meeting to pick new leaders, Linda showed up, delusional enough to think she could still call shots. The new president, Mrs. Carter, a no-nonsense retired principal, shut her down. "You're not authorized here. Leave." Before Linda could argue, Detective Harris appeared with officers. "You violate your bail conditions," he said, cuffing her as she protested. The room watched in stunned silence as she was led away, her reign of terror over. That night, I reset my security code to freedom, smiling at the thought of Crest Haven Motel, dark and empty, a monument to Linda's downfall. Pinewood was ours again, proof that even the worst bullies fall when people fight back. What do you think? Could you stand up to someone like Linda, or would you play along to avoid the fight? Should HOAs have this much power, or are they just breeding grounds for petty tyrants? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if you're glad Linda got what she deserved, and subscribe for more wild stories like this.